Are you stressed out? Maybe even fed up with your country? Here in the USA, we just recently celebrated our birthday. But if we do some reflecting, we've definitely seen better times as a nation. Which got me thinking, we make a lot of videos about the United States, so why don't we cover some other countries for once? After all, not all of my viewers are Americans, and many Americans are annoyed by the way our country's headed. So to start, how about we go over the best countries to live in the world, which I determined based on a variety of metrics, including each nation's economy, safety, education, healthcare, infrastructure, culture, corruption, civil liberties, natural environment, and quality of life. With the overall happiness of a country's residents being in that quality of life subgroup, and also the most important factor. I mean, if everyone in a country's living a long and happy life, what else can you ask for? And if you want to see more of these international videos, let's hit 10,000 likes and I'll do a list on the best and worst places to live on each continent. But without further ado, these are the top 10 best countries to live in for 2020. Number 10. Finland. Okay, so you're probably thinking,
what the heck? When did Finland get a giant cosmopolitan city full of futuristic skyscrapers? Where are the cute, colorful Scandinavian houses?
Well, you'll see them in just a bit. But because it was so hard to narrow all of the amazing countries in the world down to just 10, I actually couldn't. So we're gonna start off with a quick honorable mention. Singapore. Despite being a tiny island city-state that only gained independence in 1965, Singapore has managed to perfectly implement the best of both Eastern and Western society to become one of the most advanced, culturally diverse, and modern nations in the world. And the economy is booming. So many startups and big-name companies are located here due to its business-friendly policies, extremely low taxes, incredible infrastructure, and open trade. And Singapore was also ranked as both the second safest city and country on Earth. Between the high wages, luxurious amenities, immaculate cleanliness, and wonderful quality of life, it's almost as if this place was designed in a lab. Seriously, it's too perfect. So why didn't it make the actual top 10? Well, because of the authoritarian government. The amount of censorship present here is honestly a huge infringement on a person's individual liberties. But at least most of the residents don't seem to mind, since the government itself is virtually uncorrupt. But then again, if they do mind, it's not like they'd even be allowed to say anything. I mean, if the fine for dropping a candy wrapper on the sidewalk is $300, you can imagine the consequence for government criticism probably isn't worth it, especially since it's already expensive enough to live here with a cost of living that's higher than 95% of other countries. But let's get back to actual number 10, Finland. Just look at those clear skies. And take in some deep breaths while you're at it, because whether it's from 72% of Finland being covered in forest or from the country's incredible eco-friendliness, Finland has the cleanest air in the world. And some of the most beautiful nature too, with 188,000 lakes, 180,000 islands, and gorgeous hills and mountains in the unique northern Lapland region, which also just so happens to be one of the best places to view the northern lights. However, Finland does get pretty darn cold. And while the midnight sun of the summertime makes for great adventures, it also means that parts of the country experience less than 2 hours of daylight a day during the winter. But hey, at least there's over 2 million saunas to keep you warm. Aside from the magical environment though, Finland also hosts the happiest citizens on Earth. And it isn't hard to see why. The government genuinely has its people's best interests in mind and does everything it can to ensure the highest quality of life possible. Starting with the best education system in the world, where standardized testing doesn't exist and schools allow students to learn in whichever way is best suited for them. And once they've graduated, Finland offers free university and trade school, in addition to having top-notch universal healthcare coverage and being the third best country for gender equality with 328 days of paid family leave. But these things don't come without a price, because taxes are high, wages still aren't the best, and the unemployment rate lies at a staggering 10%. Number 9. New Zealand. Let's take things down to the Southern Hemisphere, where the 4.8 million human residents and the 26.7 million sheep residents of New Zealand enjoy incredibly high-quality education, healthcare, economic opportunities, and more. Okay, well, maybe not the sheep, but they must be happy too, because there are definitely enough of them to overthrow the government if they weren't. But why would they? I mean, New Zealand's tied for being the least corrupt country in the world. Between the indigenous Maori peoples and the quarter of the population that identifies as immigrants, the highly diverse residents coexist peacefully here, making it tied for the second safest country. Not to mention, one of the happiest. I'm guessing the perfect weather, enchanting mountaintops, crystal clear beaches, and world-class vineyards have something to do with that as well. Seriously, this country is so beautiful that you might say it looks like something out of the Lord of the Rings. Oh wait. But New Zealand isn't just a great place for hobbits to have adventures. It's also the adventure capital of the world for humans, offering pretty much every type of outdoor recreation imaginable. And since there's also an excellent work-life balance, New Zealanders can truly make the most out of their adventures. Number 8. Germany. With nearly 84 million residents, Germany is the largest nation by population in the EU, making it the first big country on our list. But despite having so many people, Germany manages things incredibly well. Not only is it cheap compared to its European neighbors, but it also has the 4th best economy in the world with an annual GDP of $4 trillion, an unemployment rate of just 3.9%, and an incredibly diverse workforce. How is all of this possible, you might wonder? Well, perhaps it has something to do with the excellent education system and free public universities, or maybe the outstanding public transit systems that seamlessly transport people around the cities and between them. Speaking of which, from Dusseldorf to Hamburg to Berlin, Munich, Stuttgart, and Frankfurt, Germany has so many amazing cities to live in, each with their own unique art, history, culture, and beer gardens featuring world-class beer. In fact, the beer here is so good that you probably won't even get a hangover the next day. The only downside is, of course, the 42% personal income tax rate that applies to most residents and makes Germany one of the most heavily taxed countries on earth. But at least you get what you pay for when you consider the remarkable infrastructure, safety, schools, and healthcare benefits. Number 7. Sweden. Do you hate stress? If so, Sweden's 6-hour workdays are definitely worth looking into. But despite, or perhaps because Sweden's populace isn't overworked, the economy here is thriving. Sweden's actually the 2nd best country for business, and the great work-life balance leads to extremely happy residents who in turn are much more productive with the time they do spend working, creating an impressively high GDP per capita over $57,000. Add in a relatively low cost of living compared to the rest of Northern Europe, and money isn't really an issue here. So the residents of Sweden have plenty of time to enjoy hanging out with friends and family in one of the cleanest nations on Earth. And by clean, I don't just mean the amazing air quality, spotless streets, and pure water from every tap, because the government here is pretty clean as well. Sweden's actually the 4th least corrupt country. The government does, however, take anywhere from 32 to 60% of your paycheck in the form of taxes. But at least it goes to good use, as it also ensures wonderful public transportation, free universal coverage, and one of the top 3 best healthcare systems in the world, and 5 weeks of paid vacation time. And with an emphasis on social equality, as well as 480 days of paid family leave that can be split between a couple on top of the mandatory 18 weeks maternity leave whenever a new child is welcomed into the family, Sweden is the best country for women. The only bad thing is that the education system is unsupportive and just not good compared to the surrounding countries. Teachers will often have low salaries, which leads to lower quality teaching. Although the universities are actually really good and free for EU citizens. Number 6. Denmark. Just a quick 15-minute drive across the incredibly beautiful and expensive Øresund Bridge brings us to our next country. Denmark, where you'll find the highest quality of life on the planet. This could be accredited to the best healthcare system in the world, or the fact that it's tied with New Zealand as the least corrupt country, or maybe that it's also considered the 2nd happiest nation, or that it's one of the top 5 safest countries, or maybe the amazing air quality, or that the capital, Copenhagen, is often regarded as the most livable city on Earth. I could go on, but I think you get the picture. And if you don't, well, picture this. You return to work from your 2-week-long vacation, and everyone just looks at you weird because, oh right, you have 3 more weeks of paid vacation time. Of course, only a non-Danish person would make that mistake, because Danes prioritize life over work and spend over 2/3 of even their non-vacation days eating, sleeping, and indulging in leisure activities. But don't mistake their flexible job schedules and 33-hour work weeks for laziness, because Danes rank very high in productivity, education, skills, earnings, personal security, prosperity, and civic engagement. Sure, the effective personal income tax rate is 52%, but the residents don't really mind as they see the high taxes as an investment into their quality of life because they know the money is going to go to good use. Plus, who needs money when you can explore these gorgeous mountains for free? Oh, wait. Denmark's flat. Number 5. Canada. While Denmark doesn't have any mountains, Canada sure does. In fact, the Great White North is one of the most beautiful countries on Earth, with so much untouched wilderness and pretty much every landscape you could imagine. But let's get down to business, because Canada's the 6th best country for business. A GDP of 1.74 trillion US dollars is a really high number for any country, but it's especially high for a country of only 37 million people. And although the unemployment rate has unfortunately shot up to 14% due to recent events, the citizens will be well cared for because Canada has an excellent social safety net featuring full employment insurance, a national pension plan, universal health care, and provincial welfare systems. Add in one of the best public schooling systems, low crime, great air quality, and incredibly friendly residents, and it's not hard to see why the quality of life here is so high and the people are so happy. Number 4. Japan. If you want to live a long and happy life, Japan is the place to do it. The life expectancy here is 88 years for females and 85 years overall, making it the longest on Earth. And who wouldn't want to spend as long as they possibly could surrounded by cherry blossom trees, lush forests, and beautiful farms littered along the fertile volcanic landscapes? And while you'd probably expect a cluster of islands roughly the size of California with 3 times the population to be cluttered and dirty, Japan is anything but. The cities are clean, safe, and modern, and operate efficiently with excellent public transportation, insanely quick internet speeds, and an amazing blend of ancient history and modern architecture. Speaking of which, despite it being the largest city in the world, the capital, Tokyo, is also the safest city in the world. That's because everything Japan does, it does well, which is a value it also instills in its citizens, who are always encouraged to aim upwards in their careers and constantly innovate. However, while this may increase the likelihood of being successful, it also creates a massive stress and mental health issue. So sure, the Japanese are very rich and have the 2nd best education system, but they also live in the 4th most expensive country and are too busy with work to focus on the simpler things in life, like settling down and starting a family, which has created a disproportionate elderly population. Although a positive to this is that the healthcare is amazing. Number 3. Switzerland. Just look at this view. Do I need to say more? Number 2. Okay, I'm kidding, but honestly, every inch of this country is jaw-droppingly gorgeous. But Switzerland isn't number 3 just for the beautiful Alps, dazzling glaciers, azure lakes, and stunning valleys. It's not even number 3 for the incredible diversity in each of the cantons, rich culture and history, amazing healthcare and public transit systems, or awesome castles. Switzerland is also the 3rd happiest country in the world with the 2nd highest quality of life, 3rd least amount of corruption, and an extremely high life expectancy of 84 years. Not to mention, this is the absolute safest nation on Earth, which makes a lot of sense given its nonviolent culture and neutral stance during war. The people here are highly involved and vote on virtually every issue in direct democracy style, which they can be trusted to do since their education system is excellent, with the universities being ranked as the 2nd best in the world. This, in addition to the low taxes, helps Switzerland maintain its strong economy, highly skilled workforce, and extremely low unemployment rate of just 3.4%. But while Switzerland's the 3rd most productive country and has an insanely high annual income of nearly 85,000 US dollars a year per resident, it's also the most expensive nation to live in. That's pretty much the only reason it isn't number 1. Number 2. Australia. The land down under. AKA the topsy-turvy world where kangaroos can kick your face in and spiders rain from the sky. Is it a country? Is it a continent? Maybe a continent? I'm not entirely sure, but what I am sure of is that crocodiles, sharks, and box jellyfish aside, Australia still manages to be one of the safest countries on Earth. And not only is it safe, it's incredibly rich too, with an annual GDP per capita of $57,000 US, the highest after-tax minimum wage of $9.54, and an average income of $64,000 US a year. And with the most efficient healthcare system, high life expectancy of 84 years, excellent schools with some of the best universities in the world, super fun and laid-back lifestyle, and a government that genuinely cares about its citizens, it's no wonder why so many people are moving here, with the population increasing by around 1.3% each year. Despite all these new residents, however, Australia still has an extremely low population density of just 3.2 people per square kilometer. So you get this big, beautiful, geographically diverse nation teeming with rainforests, deserts, mountains, coral reefs, and some of the most beautiful beaches on this planet all to yourself. Well, unless you just stay in the cities. But even then, Melbourne and Sydney are actually both among the top 5 best cities to live in the world. Now, before we get to number 1, make sure you leave a like and subscribe, and let me know what you think the best country is in the comments. And since there were so many amazing countries that just barely missed making this list, some more honorable mentions in no particular order are Iceland, Ireland, United Kingdom, Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, Austria, France, United Arab Emirates, and the United States. Yeah, the USA didn't make the list. Even with everything America does right, like the best economy in the world and a high median household income, we're still far behind many other countries when it comes to health, safety, corruption, quality of life, stress levels, life expectancy, and overall happiness. But without further ado, on to number 1. Number 1, Norway. Norway is just doing something right, man. Actually, it's doing pretty much everything right. Nestled amongst the mountainous fjords, beneath some of the crispiest, cleanest, and most unpolluted skies, Norway is simply breathtaking. Well, technically more like breath-giving. And the Norwegians certainly have plenty of time to enjoy their surroundings, since they only work 27 hours a week. But despite the fact that Norwegians work less, they're also the second most productive country in the world, with an incredibly high average annual income of $81,000 US. And they certainly do get a lot done. Not only have they maintained the highest standard of living for 13 consecutive years, but they're also the 3rd safest and happiest country on the planet. And although the government does gain much of its wealth by exporting petroleum and gas, Norway itself is extremely clean and eco-friendly, with the highest number of electric cars per capita in the world. Not to mention the purest drinking water and one of the best healthcare systems on Earth. There just isn't much Norway doesn't do well, and that's why it's the best country to live in for 2020.